Thank you for joining us for our session on innovative teaching strategies. My name is Elise Saucedo, and I am a senior here at OLP. As a member of Carondelet Circle's student ambassadors, I have been asked to facilitate this conversation between some of our faculty members and students. Joining me here today is Dr. Angie Gasho, Ms. Laura Rodriguez, and two seniors, Amy Ramirez and Maddie Leach. Dr. Gasho, can you tell us a little bit about your instructional approach that you use in your classroom where students engage in deep learning?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Elise. So a lot of what I do is based on research, and what we try and do here is incorporate really sound educational research into our teaching practices. A very famous educational researcher, John Hattie, found that in most classrooms worldwide, 80% of the talking in class is done by teachers. Here at the Academy of Our Lady of Peace, we really try and shift that responsibility to the students, because the research actually shows that the more students talk in class, the more engaged they are, the more they learn. So one of the things that I actually do in my class is something called Socratic Seminar, and it's based on the practices of, yes, Socrates. Socrates believed that learning and deep learning really came from questioning, and that questioning as a group leads you through a journey of deep learning as opposed to just looking for a correct answer. So what I do is I teach my students about reading and reflecting on what they read, researching what they're reading. Then they write questions to probe deeper into that reading and come up with what their own ideas are. I give them feedback, and then we gather together as a class and we host what is called a Socratic Seminar. And in Socratic Seminar, I essentially hand over the learning to my students. They facilitate the discussion, they guide the discussion, and they move in different ways. Part of what we do is try and teach them how to manage that. We give them sentence frames. How do you ask a question? How do you transition from one topic to the next? What is it that you can do if you disagree with somebody? What if the conversation stalls? Because the idea is that we want to give our students the strength to engage in rich and rigorous academic discussion as they move forward in their academic careers. And really, the idea is not about getting the right answer, but learning from the collective perception of your peers and your classmates and other people. And so the idea with Socratic Seminar is really to go deep, to explore, and to gain an understanding and a sense of meaning through those practices. So Maddie, can you speak a little bit to the fact of what your experience is in Socratic Seminar?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gasho. I definitely can. Socratic seminars are actually my favorite way of learning. I love whenever a teacher says we're going to have a Socratic seminar, because they really do allow me to think deeply about what we're learning and see other perspectives on that. Especially in Dr. Gasho's class that I'm taking right now, Holocaust literature. A lot of the literature that we're reading is often difficult to digest on our own. There's so many emotions, and it's often even difficult to read and realize the emotions that we're feeling and how they connect to the literature. So it's amazing to come to class and be able to talk to my fellow students about what we read and what we think of it, and to see what other people think of it, because really the amazing thing about a Socratic seminar is you're going to get so many different perspectives. I think what I get from a book is going to be so different from what the person next to me gets from it, based on our experiences in life or even in the mood that we were in when we were reading it. So it really allows you to better understand the text from different perspectives, and really see it in a new light, and even understand your own emotions and connections to the text much better. But English classes aren't the only classes that we use Socratic seminars in. In fact, we use them in history classes a lot as well, and I know Amy has a lot of experience with that, so do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, Maddie. So history classes are a great example of really useful Socratic seminars. So I think it really humanizes the humanities. So history is multidimensional, so So being able to sit down with fellow students and talking about what we read allows us to see the different perspectives of this history. So we can talk about the why something happened, the effects, and these historical figures become more of these people that you could maybe know. And these dates aren't just memorized. So it's less of learning the facts and then regurgitating them back out on a test, but understanding the reason that things happen in history and then employing that in our modern day lives, which I think is really great.
Those were awesome answers. Thank you all so much. I can definitely relate to us having Socratic seminars, and I always learn so much. Maddie and Amy are in a lot of my classes, and they have beautiful insights to share. Our next question is for Ms. Rodriguez. So, Ms. Rodriguez, beyond these Socratic seminar learning techniques, what are some other innovative ways you engage your learners?
Thank you so much, Elise. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that this current situation that we're in really opened up an opportunity to kind of further explore different digital tools that I could sort of implement into my classroom, because this year's classroom was going to look so different. And so I kind of took it as the opportunity to challenge students and empower them to begin to put together products that were professional, that they could be proud of, that they could record and turn into a portfolio that they could then take out into the real world with them when they were gone. So we've done a lot with blogs. We've done a lot with Canva and ThingLink and Adobe Spark, which are all platforms that can be used when putting together professional presentations. And our favorite one right now in my classes is Flipgrid, and it is an online video discussion platform. And so what my students get to do is film themselves reflecting, setting goals, analyzing literature, analyzing film, and sort of respond to each other. So we kind of took this in-class discussion and we allowed it to kind of happen outside of the traditional classroom setting, because that was going to be so different. The challenge then became, how do we continue the discussion in a different environment? And so it kind of opened up a really cool opportunity to explore a platform that's been around for a while and see just all of the opportunities for implementing it into my own class. So we've used it in a reflective way. We've talked about the ISOs, specifically the ISO of Women of Faith. We have used it to set goals and to kind of reflect at the end of a unit on that video that we made. And we actually recently in my speech class are using Flipgrid as our platform for debate. And so because we have half of our students on campus and half digital, I wanted them to sort of challenge each other to come together on a platform like Flipgrid and still be able to maintain that connection that comes with debate, even if they are opponents. I love that you guys were talking about Socratic Seminar, because actually I recently tried Socratic Seminar on Flipgrid as well. And so I just loved that we were playing with filming our questions and then filming our responses, because it kept that authenticity that you were talking about, the authenticity of the learning, sort of at the forefront of our lesson for that day. There's a lot more that I could say. There's a lot of features that are helpful for teachers, that are helpful for students. Again, it's one of those tools that really empowers students and creates agency for them to kind of put together in words what it is they are trying to express. And it allows me to build scaffolds for professional conversation, professional dialogue, professional speaking even. As I can insert expectations, sentence frames, response frames, and all through this one site I can assess. So it's been really kind of our go-to platform recently, actually, because we've had a lot of fun kind of getting into just keeping the discussion aspect alive, even though we couldn't physically be together. And I know that Amy Ramirez has been also using Flipgrid a lot in her classroom. So I was hoping that maybe you could share a little bit about what you liked about Flipgrid.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think these online tools are really great. They keep virtual learning interactive. So instead of just reading something, writing an assignment, and turning it in, you have to speak about it, and this is posted. So it's great to see everybody else's thoughts. So that means there's more connection between classmates. I know I've used Flipgrid even for class introductions and icebreakers, and that's great for getting to know who's in your class because that creates a better dynamic for conversations. And discussion posts are also a big thing. So in my English classes, the teacher will usually pose a prompt or a question about a general topic, and you can see everybody writing what they think and their personal experiences in real time. And I think it's great because just being able to see other people's work, I think is really beneficial so that you could use it as your own. And even for STEM classes, we use these online platforms for real life applications. So for my science classes, we're doing virtual labs because we can't use anything because we usually have to share the lab materials. So we have like these 3D experience where you have these little hands that you control. So it's great just having this resource to keep the learning going and to use what we learn in real life application. And Maddie, I know that you're a big fan of online learning tools too, so what do you think?
Yes, I am. I think especially right now it's amazing to have those tools as a way to diversify our learning because as Amy was mentioning, it is just a lot of, repetition and it kind of breaks it up and allows us to think about learning differently. Even Flipgrid, I was thinking while Amy was talking that one of the amazing things about it is since you're not writing and you are speaking, it kind of allows you to develop your own writing voice a little bit better because it blurs the line between that writing voice and that speaking voice and allows you to make your writing more conversational and really form your arguments well in your writing because you're used to doing it speaking now. So I think that's really helpful. Also, another thing that Ms. Rodriguez brought up as a tool that we use is blogs, and this is very common in English classrooms. And I know I really enjoy having blogs because it's like it feels a little bit more personal than just turning in an assignment, and you get to reflect more about how it affects you personally, not just in general. And it's also amazing to look at your teacher's blog or your other students' blogs to see what they're thinking and what they're writing about, or even what they're reading. Some of our posts are more personal and more about what are you reading right now, or what's affecting you at the moment. So it is great to have that connection, not just through what you're learning about, but also through knowing more about each other's lives. And I think that's especially important right now because it keeps us connected even in these somewhat separating times.
Those were beautiful answers, and I completely agree. Like you guys said, these learning tools really do keep virtual learning interactive, and I think it's such a beautiful tool that OLP is using. They're all very interesting pedagogies that I very much admire. So we're going to move on to the next question. At an all-girls school, there are different opportunities for girls to discover their voice and power as learners. What are some things you do in a classroom to empower your female voice? Dr. Gasho, would you please answer?
There are so many things. It's hard to know exactly where to start. But I think I'll go to the overall level of OLP. One of the things that we're very conscious of is that we are educating her. And so our curriculum reflects that. To give you an example, I teach a Holocaust literature class. The memoir that we're reading is written by a woman. It is about a woman's experience in Auschwitz. While Night is a fantastic memoir and it's taught in many schools and in middle schools, we very purposely look at the curriculum and the choices that we're making to highlight the female contributions. So we're looking for a diverse curriculum, and we are looking for a curriculum that reflects the female experience. We want our students to see themselves in what they're learning about. In addition to that, some of the things that we do in the classroom is recognizing each individual. That's something that I think is at the heart very much of everything that OLP does and what every teacher considers in their classroom. So for instance, to go back to the Socratic Seminar, we absolutely recognize that there are some students who are reticent to speak up. So we look for ways to engage those students in the conversation that may not be as obvious. So there might be an assigned note taker. The student might reflect later on what she heard in the dialogue in class, and post her own individual video response just to the teacher, so that she practices those speaking skills but is acknowledged as being, a different kind of learner. And so we look for those kinds of opportunities in everything that we do. The digital platforms help a lot. We'll have online discussion boards using tools like Padlet, or even just engaging in using simple tools that are available to many people, like Google Forms, where they're giving feedback to their teachers on a continual basis, so that as a teacher, I know exactly where each of my students is, and I can meet her needs. That's really important, because once the student recognizes that you see them as an individual, they find their voice. They find the way to express their learning and the knowledge and that's what learning is all about. Ms. Rodriguez, any thoughts?
I have so many thoughts. I first wanted to kind of acknowledge what Dr. Gasho was saying. Coming back to OLP as an alum myself, it's been really great to kind of work with you, actually, Dr. Gasho, as we kind of built this curriculum very intentionally to make sure that our students could see themselves in the text that we were reading, in the assessments we were doing, and not just as the females that we are and the voice that we have, but also the cultures that we come into the classroom with. It's always been so inclusive, and we are even more so now dedicated to making sure that we are providing that mirror experience for our students. So I did really enjoy what you were saying. And, I kind of am just going to take it a step further in the sense that, because it's so important to empower in the classroom, one thing that's kind of come out for myself over the last few years is taking on the moderator position for our school's speech team. And so part of what's been great about Empowering Voice is providing opportunity for our students to come together as a team and compete throughout San Diego with many high schools that also, bring in such a formidable experience for us. And partnering with various clubs throughout the community to kind of just, again, open up that opportunity for our students to share their voice, not just at OLP, but also out in the San Diego community and honestly throughout the state of California and on a national level. And actually, Elise is someone who kind of really shines in that area as someone that represented OLP and sort of won this nationwide contest as a sophomore. And so I think what it shows is just that when our students have opportunity, they come to the table prepared. They come to the table determined to do well, determined to be their best selves, to represent our school well, to represent themselves well. And it helps kind of round out that student experience that we so strive for here at OLP. And if I could kind of kick it over to Amy, she's one of our captains this year on speech team. I know this year has been a little bit different with virtual competitions, but it would be great if maybe you could talk a little bit about what it's been like to be on speech team for, I think this is your third year now.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes, which is awesome to have students sort of on this team for multiple years and taking leadership roles as well.
So I've been doing speech team since my sophomore year, and honestly, I could easily say that it's one of the best extracurriculars that I do. I think as young women, we usually get spoken over in the classroom, and even in public speaking, it's intimidating for everyone. But going into an all-girls speech team, there's this mutual unspoken understanding, and there's this respect that we all have for each other. So I feel that it's a very safe space to practice, so you can give your speech to people and you know you're not going to be judged, and you know that they're going to give you the solid feedback that you need. And I think that really helps you build up confidence. And going into competitions, I mean, it's mixed gendered, so the first time can be very intimidating because the guys do usually tend to be louder and the focus can usually just be on them. But with that confidence that we build up during our speech team practices, I think that we're a pretty powerful team, and we usually have a lot of fun in competition and do well. And I know that this is something that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life, and that if there are conversations in my college classes, that I'm going to be one of those girls who's going to speak up, and I'm not going to be afraid to present my voice and myself in the classroom because of all the tools that speech team has given me.
I completely agree, Amy. A speech team has been an awesome outlet for, I think, myself as well as you and the rest of our OLP students to really develop their voice and blossom into these articulate, confident, self-empowered women that are going to change the world. And I think you put that beautifully in your answer. This is sadly the end of our conversation, but I thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panelists for your time and your dedication to our school and community. Educating the next generation of women leaders and innovators isn't just something we talk about. It's ingrained in everything that we do at OLP.